There are meals you remember for a lifetime. Moments around a table. Laughter. Conversation. But this meal was different. Because this was the night Jesus gave the world something it would never lose. It was the night before the cross. Jesus knew it. The disciples didn't. They thought it was just another Passover meal. A tradition they had celebrated before. But this time, everything would change. The Gospels tell us that Jesus gathered his disciples in an upper room in Jerusalem. They came to celebrate the Passover, the meal that remembered how God freed Israel from slavery in Egypt. A meal of remembrance, of deliverance, of covenant. But what they didn't realize was that the true Lamb of God was sitting at the table with them. In the middle of the meal, Jesus did something unexpected. He took bread. He blessed it. He broke it. And he gave it to them, saying, "This is my body which will be given up for you." Then he took the cup. "This is my blood, poured out for you and for many." This was not symbolic language. This was the moment the church would later recognize as the institution of the Eucharist. The moment Jesus gave himself, not just on the cross, but sacramentally for all time. On Holy Thursday, the Catholic Church enters deeply into this mystery. At the Mass of the Lord's Supper, we do not just remember what happened. We participate in it. The priest repeats the same words of Christ. The bread and wine become his body and blood. And the Church proclaims a truth that has stood for centuries. The Eucharist is not just a symbol. It is Christ himself, truly present. But the night did not end there. In a moment that must have stunned everyone in the room, Jesus did something unthinkable. He stood up, took off his outer garment, and began to wash the feet of his disciples. Feet that were dusty, tired, unworthy. Even Judas, Peter resisted, "Lord, you shall never wash my feet." But Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no part in me." The King of Heaven knelt like a servant. After washing their feet, Jesus said, "I have given you an example, that you should do as I have done." This is why Holy Thursday is not just about the Eucharist. It is also about service. Love that bends low. Love that humbles itself. Love that gives without counting the cost. On this same night, Jesus gave another gift to his church. He told his disciples, "Do this in memory of me." With these words, he entrusted them with the power to continue what he had begun. This is the origin of the Catholic priesthood. From that night forward, the Eucharist would be celebrated through the hands of those called to serve. But the night does not end in light. After the meal, Jesus leads his disciples to the Garden of Gethsemane. There everything changes. The same Jesus who just gave himself in love, begins to suffer in agony. He prays, "Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me." But then, the same surrender we saw at the table appears again. "Not my will, but yours be done." Holy Thursday reveals something profound. Love is not just spoken. It is given. At the table, Jesus gives his body. At the basin, he gives his humility. In the garden, he gives his will. And on the cross, he will give everything. Holy Thursday is not just something we observe. It is something we are invited into. To receive. To serve. To surrender. Because the same Jesus who knelt before his disciples now invites us to kneel before him. But the story does not end here. The meal is over. The prayer is finished. The betrayal is already in motion. And the next time we see Jesus, he will be standing before his accusers. The cross is no longer distant. It is here. If this reflection helped you understand Holy Thursday more deeply, share it with someone walking through Holy Week. And tell us in the comments, do you see the Eucharist as a symbol, or as Christ truly present?